Welcome, Johnny. Welcome back. Think 1 or 2 years ago we've met each other.
Yeah.
And now I have to ask you, how are you doing? How are things working out?
Good. Gosh, since I last saw you, we've been just so busy. I mean, the when I first met you, that was really when we were kicking off our first world tour, and the self-titled record was seeing the light of day, and a lot of people were being introduced to us. And so ever since then, we've just been touring like madmen. And then we were home for about a year and a half after all that touring. And that was a rough year. I went through a lot of personal changes, but it was one of those growing years. You know, sometimes the tougher years are the ones you grow the most. And so I grew a lot, learned a lot, matured a lot, and a lot of that went into this record. And that's what we're touring on now. And so everything's just, we have these little victories along the way, but it's all going good.
I have to laugh. Yeah, I matured a lot as well during the last 20 years, but there's a lot, a lot of times you don't need to have.
Yes.
Sometimes it's good to stay a
feel
child.
you.
We're here because you're on tour. Nothing more. Which camera? Yeah, this one. The story we tell ourselves, and if you use a title for an album like this, what is your story that you are telling? I have to ask that.
Well, there's a lot of different stories that I think I tell myself, and I think most people have stories about many things, whether it's the story about their closest relationships, a story about what's going on in the world, a story about what the media is telling them and what's true and what's not true. A lot of times I found that reality is this, and we are kind of all around here, and we all have perspectives on what's true, and many times we have to question the stories we're telling ourselves in order to find a breakthrough or to change or to grow. But many times we hold on to our stories because it feels comfortable or safe, or predictable. But I think a lot of times those stories get in the way of reality. And so this record is a learning process of learning how to let go of that and form new stories and let go of old ones, and things like that.
I'm doing something I shouldn't do during the interview, but your picture you used, it made me think. And for me, it's like we all know where we are, we all know the truth, and we like to, like you said, we like to think we are somewhere else, but actually we all know. We all know actually where we are and what we do, but we like to believe in our dreams or in our lies that we tell ourselves in our stories. Yeah, I had to think for a moment. It's something was about, and you matured, you learned a lot, and first of all, wow, thank you for this album, and you astonished me. It's somehow very different. I didn't expect that, to be honest. And if I got it right, it's just my feeling, but if I got it right, you have to hear it, the whole album. You're inviting us to travel with you. Did you plan that? How did that work out? And where did the idea come from? Or did you have songs and then you've got the idea? Was it planned? Or how did that come to existence?
Some of it was an idea from the get-go or a plan, but a lot of it kind of spontaneously emerges along the way. So each step of the way, an idea will form and kind of fit into the picture that we didn't foresee happening. So it kind of unveils itself as we just continue to show up every day and put in the time and the energy. And as time went on, as with our self-titled record, same kind of a thing where we had this many ideas and we weeded them down to this, and then they transformed and grew into this. And then at the end, we have all these songs, and then it's like a jigsaw puzzle. You're like, okay, they all play into a story, but what's the right order? And so we'd put them in the right order, and then I would work on a lot of the the Alan Watts, who's the philosopher that you hear talking on this record and the stories and the self-titled record. And I would fit him in ways to kind of carry you along, just like I was working my way through my own personal life, and the guys were in here. So just like you said, it's an invitation.
I want to provoke you a bit, but before that, once again, nothing more. The stories we tell ourselves. I was completely surprised by this album, and for me, it's great. It's an adventure. It's a journey. And this journey, how do your fans react? It's quite surprising. It's a risk. It's a risk. Let me say something else. You might not know him. Etienne Dabo, he's a French pop singer. And he's a superstar. Even started in the 80s, and he was a superstar, even over Canada and the States. And with each album, he invented himself. There was a new one. He always took a risk. Yeah, you always could hear it's him. But with every album, he invented himself and new things. Something like this happened here as well. You're still
That's
nothing
good.
more, but what do the fans say? Do they understand? Or are there new people listening to the music? How is the reaction for you of your friends, of the people who love your music?
Well, first off, thank you. That's good to hear. I mean, that's exactly what we were hoping to do. We wanted to. We didn't want to put out the same record again, but we didn't want to lose ourselves in the process, because you're always walking this fine line between exploring something new but not being so different from what the fans and supporters of you like, the reason they liked you in the first place. So we wanted to kind of venture out, and I think the feedback so far has been really good. When we released the first two singles, which were Don't Stop and Go to War, we kind of did that on purpose because they were so different, or at least Don't Stop was very different for us. We kind of wanted to throw people off the trail and give them something that would make them go, what is this record going to sound like? Rather than something that was comfortable and predictable. So there was a mixture of positive and negative right at the beginning, but I always knew in my gut, once people heard the whole thing, it would make more sense. It's more context. And once we released the whole record, we got nothing but positive, really, really good feedback.
Again, thank you very much that you have got the guts to do that. And it's a risk, it's an adventure. Otherwise, if the people don't like it, you're done. Your record company might say, hey, what are you doing? And it's much easier to do what the people know you for, to do the same routine, to have a certain success. But as an artist who wants to be there for a decade, 2 decades, you have to go this way. Each new album must be different. It's still you.
Yeah.
And I hope you will. But you see, I'm fascinating. That's what I think is missing very often.
Yeah, and I don't foresee us ever not taking a risk. I think we'll always take some sort of a risk, because I get too bored not doing that. Like I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing if I wanted to do something predictable. Like I have to have something that excites me about the record, and usually that's exploring new territory. So the next one will be different too. It'll be its own thing.
Where did the idea come from to invite a philosopher? Where did you get this idea?
I'm trying to remember. So I listened to. I found Alan Watts, who's the philosopher you hear on our stuff. I found him on YouTube, just going down YouTube rabbit trails, clicking on videos, and I would listen to him while I go to sleep. And so while I was going to sleep, I would kind of be in and out, and then wake up and hear something, and take a screenshot of it and email it to myself. And so after a year or two, I had this folder filled with all these little excerpts that I thought were little golden nuggets from this guy's lectures. And I think some of the artists we've been influenced by when we were younger had very conceptual records. Like a band called Dredge was a band who had a record called El Cielo, and it had a lot of intermission kind of tracks, like transition tracks, that really gave the whole record, it elevated it to a different experience than just clicking to a song. It was more of a journey, and there was talking and things spliced throughout it. So I think they were a big influence in that. And so my philosophy kind of background, like I was always interested in philosophy and science. And so those I wanted to incorporate those into what we do, but it's always hard to incorporate a lot of deeper concepts into lyrics. Like we strive to, but you can only say so much because you only have, with lyrics, it's better to say more with less words. Yeah. But there was times I wanted to elaborate, and so I used the philosopher to kind of say what I couldn't in the lyrics.
I want to stay there because I'm curious. And two things I want to ask: what did he bring into the city? What was his work? What was the benefit of working with him concerning this album? And how did your bandmates react when you came out with this idea? Oh yeah, that's great! And what? what was it?
They were into the idea, but I had created some of these kind of philosophical musical tracks in the past. They just weren't on the Few Not Fleeting. They were on earlier stuff even before that. So they knew that I had created those. They were aware of the idea. And then when they heard his voice, they were like, yeah, he has a really capturing voice. It's a very classic, almost timeless voice. So they were on board and just let me roll with it. So I just ran with it.
Yeah. Again, I must show it again. And no, you don't need, but my camera wants to do it. Nothing more. The stories we tell ourselves, and I grew up. When I grew up, it was normal to listen to concept albums. Yeah, you had an album, and you started with one side, and it ended with the end of the second side. Everything belonged together, and that got lost. Suddenly, there were only hits, and they choose music to fill the album. Yeah, not to make it 10 minutes or 5 minutes. So I'm a fan of this. Must be both things, but a concept album is something. It's a piece of art. Yes. It's a piece of art. That's the difference. Making hits is playing your music. It's art as well, but it's more business.
Yes, it's more of a tool or a marketing. Yeah. It's more of a picture of the band rather than what, I always think of it like, when you get to know someone as a close friend, it's a very different experience than talking to somebody for 5 minutes. Yeah. But the 5-minute thing is what you get with just liking hits of a band. But if you're like a close friend, that's a record. That's really, diving into the depths. And like you said, it's a piece of art. That's more timeless. That's what's going to be the memorable, life-changing thing.
Yeah. One more personal question. It's a kind of a lot of changes in your life, and making an album, recording it, it helps you thinking about it. It gives you the distance to everything. How did it help you? Did it help you bringing this out, making this real? And did it change something in you? Did it help with your problems, or did it help you to mature?
Yes, yes to all that. Music's always been kind of a therapy for me. I have other things in life that are therapeutic as well. But music has been, whenever I have challenging emotions that I don't know what to do with, or I don't know why I'm feeling what I'm feeling, I've always found that, working through this record allowed me to put words to it. But it was a painful process. This record actually was probably the most uncomfortable record I've ever made. I don't know why, but it just was, there was a lot going on during it. And so it was very hard to get the motivation every day to work on it for some reason. Whereas in the past, it was kind of like that was my go-to. So this one took a lot more conscious intention and effort, but I knew that I'd get through it. It's just always somewhere in the middle of the record process, there's like this slump that I have to get through. And this one was no different.
Yeah, I think we come to an end because if I would something new again, it would take far too long. But the process of recording the album and to have the power. If you want to stay in bed, if you want to stay, no, I don't like to, and you have to force yourself. That helps you. Not only the music, It gives you a good feeling. It does something for you. But on the way you have to push yourself. That helps a lot, I think.
Yes, that's something I found in life that's really important is tethering yourself or connecting yourself to something that's bigger than you, because we're human, so we waver. We feel strong, we feel weak, we feel healthy, we feel sick. We go through all these different ups and downs of life. So when there is something that is more important than our feelings in that moment, then it is a really healthy thing. Some people use religion to do that. Some people use music. That's kind of their religion. There's some people who use physical activities, you know, but it's you plug yourself into something bigger, and music has done that for me.
Jonny, thank you very much. I stop here because the next points I would love to ask. It takes far too long. We don't have that much time. Only one thing, when I was preparing, I had to laugh. I've seen this two or three times on your interviews, and they wrote on YouTube or whatever, hey, he really possesses a T-shirt. About you, because you're and I was laughing at that. In a way, it reminds me of that. Talking to you, it's you are much deeper than someone might think. Seeing you on stage and acting you and talking you, it's completely different. Nothing I would normally expect, and I'm very thankful for that. It's good. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Nothing more, Jonny, with us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was a fun.